Remember all those techies that predicted that everybody would have self-driving cars? Of course, it has not happened yet, but as Mark New reports, AI may make autonomous driving more affordable and more reliable.
In San Jose, California, I'm going for a special spin.
There it is. Let's go for a ride.
Imagery CEO Eran Ophir tells me this car works best when the driver takes his hands off the wheel.
He's engaged.
Ophir says this self-driving system has only a few cameras and doesn't need pre-planned maps or traditional laser-based distance detectors. It learns as it goes.
It's a true AI system that teaches itself. The system built the map on the fly while driving, without memory, without getting it from the outside. It looked around and understood everything. Because of the fact that it learns on the fly, it can drive almost out of the box everywhere.
And where exactly is the brain of Imagery's AI-driven system? Well, it's right here in the back of the car, self-contained. What exactly is that?
This is essentially the brain of the entire system. We're using a 32-core CPU to calculate trillions of computations per second to allow us to see 360 degrees around and navigate the world.
Okay, how does it compare to how a human thinks?
Not even in the same ballpark.
They can read signs, lights, spot pedestrians, and negotiate roads in dangerous traffic.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Come on, man. Do the right thing. I did not take it.
Bad human driving can pose a dilemma for autonomous test drives.
Whoa! He just pulled right into our lane. Wow. Okay. Man. He just...
Yeah, just entered the lane without even looking.
In this case, our human driver's natural reaction forced him to take the wheel. Even though the autonomous vehicle was swerving to the left, the question is, would it have avoided the accident on its own?
The human did not trust all the way the action that was taken by the vehicle to swerve and avoid the situation. So it's kind of a mindset that we will gradually have to trust AI systems that we use. We still think that we can respond faster and safer and so on. But in many cases, this is not the case because the cameras and the computers, they see things way ahead.
That trust is happening in Israel, where Imagery's AI system is powering the country's first autonomous public bus. Imagery has also teamed up with Continental to provide what it calls true automated parking, because it actually locates available spots in which to autonomously park.
Green is available, red is occupied, blue is available but not allowed.
Ophir also says AI has helped them achieve something else key to the industry's future, making a self-driving system cheap enough to fit inside a $30,000 car.
We had the automotive industry almost stalled in a way from technological perspective for the past 100 years. But in the next 10 years, we'll see everything that we know about vehicles changing. I believe that basically within 3 to 5 years, most of us will drive autonomous vehicles.
Mark New, CGTN, San Jose, California.
Okay, so for more on this and AI's impact on the car industry, Dan Ives joins us, Managing Director, Equity Research, Wedbush Securities. Good to see you, my friend. Should I trust you to drive me to the golf course, or should I trust the robot?
Phil, I think in the next 3 to 5 years, I think you're ultimately going to have a self-driving car. I mean, I think that's really where we're heading down that path to level 4 autonomous. And I think it's a bumpy road to get there, but we made significant strides. And I think you could be going to that golf course in autonomous in the next 3 to 5 years.
What needs to happen for us to get there? So basically, you're saying in 3 years, that's really fast in car life. But what needs to happen? Is it regulations? Is it rules? Is it from the manufacturer? Is it from the lawyers? Who needs to do what they need to do?
Sure. I think first off, it's data. If you look at these beta programs that's going on, you have some in China, you have Tesla, of course. It's around data. The more data, the smarter the FSD gets. If you look at some of these beta versions that have come out, then they fixed a lot of the bugs, but regulatory is going to get involved. You need regulatory clearance, and you need the technology to get to a point that you ultimately start to see more and more adoption globally. And I believe we are right now in that cusp this is a key 6 to 12 months ahead on FSD.
If you're behind the wheel and I'm driving towards you in an autonomous car and I crash into you, my hands weren't on the steering wheel, who are you going to sue?
Okay, that's a good question. So the insurance, if you look at how it's ultimately going to play out, let's say like Tesla, they're having their own insurance. So you will start to see almost a change in terms of the insurance industry as FSD ultimately rolls out because of exactly those situations that you're talking about that could clearly, happen, especially, as we've even seen over the last year.
I look out there, you have the LiDAR, the cameras, if you will, that watches everything, that collects the data. Then you have the chips that go inside the vehicles that are making sure the data gets aggregated and it can spit out the results that you're looking for. Then you have the manufacturing side of these vehicles, who some would argue, maybe you might too, that Tesla's a tech company, not a car company. Where should investors put their money? Where should we make our bets? How are we going to make money on this? Because for the past 5 years, we've been told we're going to have it, and companies like Apple, we're going to do it, and they're not in on it either. And I don't know where Google is, but there's a lot of people who are very skeptical still.
No doubt, but I do believe. Well, first of all, I believe Apple by 2026 we will see the Apple car. I think it's a matter of when, not if. And I do believe autonomous will be a piece of that as they go with other OEMs. In terms of best ways to play it, I think Tesla clearly is the best way to play it from an FSD perspective. You look at Waymo, obviously part of Google. That's another significant way to play it. And I think at one point down the road, it's really Uber, because I believe in the next 5, 6 years, you could have 10, 15% of, when you look at rideshare, those could be autonomous. Essentially, Uber pulls up, there's no driver.
Internationally, China has made huge inroads in pushing for driverless vehicles as well. Are there companies in China, whether it's XPeng or NIO or the Ubers of the world, if you will, that would be good investments? My issue with this is that experts that I've spoken to, these valuations are not cheap by any means.
Yeah, but when you look even in China, which is obviously extremely advanced when it comes to autonomous and a lot of AI technologies, I would argue the opposite, that AI right now, I think, is the biggest transformation we've seen in the last 30 years. And the AI piece is actually not being valued in a lot of these, what I'll call disruptive technology companies. You call them auto. But when you look at the likes of Tesla, NIO, BYD, XPeng, and others, and I think that's really the next step, because FSD is essentially AI. And I think that's really going to be the next step of where this is all heading.
The regulation involved, I think, is going to be quite significant. I know they're testing some of these vehicles in places like Arizona and Pennsylvania, but I went to a dealership and I actually tested out the driverless parking feature. I know it's not that exciting. The salesperson who was sitting next to me tried it 5 times and failed. He couldn't figure out why it couldn't park on its own. And it made me think, if I'm a regulator, I don't even know where to begin to regulate this. What are the challenges for regulators? Is it going to be statewide or is it going to be nationwide?
Well, it's going to be nationwide, but to your point, regulatory is a big issue. I mean, in terms of right now, what the regulations are going to be, which are the ones that are approved, who could ultimately get to level 4 autonomous. And I think right now, regulators, they're trying to keep up with the technology, but I really would focus on Tesla in terms of this latest beta program that they're running. I've been able to test drive some of the FSD, and I think they made significant strides. I believe a year from now, we're sitting here, and we are probably within, call it, 12 to 18 months of really starting to get to legit level 4 autonomous.
All right. I look forward to it, Dan. I still not am convinced. I may actually prefer you drive for now, and we'll test it out. We'll see. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.